Well, good afternoon. Welcome to the Journey podcast at Pathfinder Counseling Group. I'm your host, Dan Konjorski. And with us today is Mrs. Heidi Isley,
Hello,
right?
yes.
Hello, Heidi. And you're a master's level therapist, right?
I am, yes.
And where did you graduate from?
So I went to Liberty University.
Okay.
I did their online program.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, it's great to have you with us. Heidi is part of the program here at Pathfinder Counseling Group. So Heidi, would you kind of let the audience know who you are, because one of them might become a client of yours?
Yeah, so like Dan said, my name is Heidi. I graduated, I guess it's been over a year now. It's been almost 2 years since I graduated from my master's program. And it was in clinical mental health counseling. I got my master's of arts in that.
Okay.
And since I graduated, I've been working with Dan here at Pathfinder.
Yes, and we're glad to have Miss Heidi here. And tell us a little bit. You're married. You have a newborn, right?
Yes, we had our first baby. Her name is Ada. 3 months ago, pretty much on the dot.
Yeah.
And so I've been married for, oh my gosh, I guess it's also been like 3 years at this point.
Okay.
So yeah.
Where did you meet your husband?
So we met in college. So we both went to the University of North Georgia. And so that's actually one of the 6 senior military colleges in Georgia. And so he commissioned, and I was just, they called me a civilian. I was a civilian student.
Oh.
And so that's how we met. He was on the cadet Army side, and I was on the civilian side of the school.
Oh, I see. I see. What did you study while going to the University of North Georgia?
Yeah, so I majored in psychology, and then I actually minored in gender studies.
Gender studies. Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
If I can recall the name of the book I really like about that subject.
Yeah.
I mean, there was some books I read in my own studies in my Master of Arts of Clinical Mental Health Counseling that I really enjoyed when it comes to gender studies.
Right.
But anyway, that's here now. That's later on, a discussion for later. I'll bring it up later to you. So that's great and you moved to Clarksville, Tennessee. And why did you end up coming to Clarksville, Tennessee?
So we were originally in Georgia, Northern Georgia, and then when my husband graduated, so I was a little bit older than him, so he graduated after I did, and when he graduated and commissioned into the Army, we got stationed at Fort Campbell, and so that's what brought me to Clarksville, ultimately.
Oh, okay. All right. And I understand you did some work on post.
I did. So I've had a lot of jobs before I became a therapist, and one of those is being a victim advocate. So for a long time, I worked as a victim advocate or victim witness advocate for the court system. I did that down in Georgia. And then when we moved to Tennessee, I actually worked on post as a domestic violence victim advocate for families on post.
Okay, all right. So you worked there, and then I think we met at a previous employment at a different
So I did my internship.
Different agency, right. You did an internship. I was there earning some hours for my full licensure, and that's how I met you. And then later on, I created the business Pathfinder Counseling Group with another counselor. He joined me first, and then later on, you were looking for a position, and that's when you called us.
Yeah. And you guys can't see Dan, but he's got a bald head. And I remembered that bald-headed man. I need to go join him.
All right. Well, we're grateful that you did join us. And I absolutely love your sense of humor there. Yeah. She's always picking on me, Josh. I don't understand that.
It keeps
it's a
him on
more
his toes.
Georgia thing, I guess.
Yeah,
huh?
it keeps you on your toes.
Yeah, it keeps me on my toes. That's right. All right. So you've been in the counseling field for, post-graduation, master's level therapist for about a year, just over a year.
Yeah, I'd say it's just over a year.
Yeah. And what have you, what have you found that you enjoy about counseling? Why do you enjoy counseling?
Oh gosh. It's very interesting. I've always considered myself to be an introverted person.
There's no way.
Right. And so that's why I find it very interesting. I love to talk to people within the constraints of counseling.
Okay.
I think it gives me a lot of insight. I think it fulfills my personal duty of helping others.
Okay.
And so I find that in the real world, I might be an introvert, but when it comes to me finding something fulfilling, I love to speak to others and I love to help others.
Okay. All right. Would you, I mean, a lot of people will use, the kind of language you're using or kind of inference that you're making is more or less purpose in life.
Sure.
Calling, purpose. Is that what this is for you? More
I think
of, this is, it gives you fulfillment, it gives you purpose, right?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. I think that's kind of what I set out to do is I set out to help people, and I didn't really understand how to do that, right? You have all these other professions like being a nurse or being a teacher or something that's very distinctive, helping someone.
Right.
And that just didn't fit me, right? I don't like blood, right? And I don't want to do a lesson plan. And so counseling fit very, very well.
Is there anyone in your family that does counseling?
No. they do it on the other side.
What do you mean?
They're clients.
Oh, they're clients. Okay.
And so I have a very, I would say a personal tie with counseling.
Oh, okay.
And so my family was always very mental health positive. And so I do have a family member that is diagnosed with schizophrenia.
Okay.
And so growing up, it was very, I think, eye-opening. It taught me a lot about myself. It taught me a lot about others that struggle with mental health.
Right.
And I think it taught me to be very open-minded.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so I think that's what led me to counseling is because I saw the difference that it made in their life. When I saw the difference that it made in my family's life to be able to be a part of it.
Right. Wow. You said it gives you a lot of insight. Just talking to your clients so far gives you a lot of insight. How has that helped? How has insight helped you personally? I mean, just how does insight help? I guess that's what I'm trying. Not just in general.
Yeah. No. Well, and I always tell people, I can never read your mind, right? I will never claim to be able to read your mind, but I do think I'm a pretty insightful person. And I think that's kind of where that comes from, right? I pull a lot on your experiences, right? The things that you're telling me, the stories that you're giving me.
Right.
And that I think helps when I'm speaking to someone, right? Where I find my insight to be.
Okay. All right. So does it also help you individually?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it, like I was saying, it makes me more open-minded, right?
Right.
Makes me be more considerate of others, makes me try to not always understand, but be empathetic of where you are.
Right.
Meet you where you are, pretty much, is what it helps me to do.
Right. Yeah. Wow, I just had a great thought to ask you, and it's just my age that's showing right
I don't
now,
think it's your
'cause
age, because it happens to me too. So.
I just had a great thought to ask you, and the insight gain that we receive. I guess it's this idea that when we talk to our clients, we're also learning. I think that's where I wanted to go with this.
100%.
We're also learning. We're in the midst of our helping others. We learn too as well.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Yeah.
I think that speaks to a counselor's ability to be humbled by their clients, right?
Wow.
It's that that cultural humility or the ability to want to learn from others.
Right. And in that, you said you got up early this morning.
I did.
And if your husband's watching, I'm sorry, dude, That was her choice. She got up, so long ago and drove how many hours?
It's a 5-hour trip.
Yeah.
It is. It is.
Wow. But you are speaking very well right now,
Oh,
and that's my point I want to make. You're getting up that early with a 3-month-old,
uh-huh.
4-month-old.
Uh-huh.
Did you drive by yourself?
I did.
My Lord.
She's a good passenger though.
She was a good passenger.
She was a good passenger.
She slept
The whole way.
the whole way.
The whole way.
And you're like, oh Lord, I wish I could sleep.
I wish she was talking to me at this point. Yeah.
That's funny. That's funny. But you're talking very well. You're using very good language, and I can find appreciation in that. So you find insight is personally helpful to you as well as professionally.
I'd say so.
Professionally,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Any significant, since you started, I mean, this is a good time to ask this question. It's a reflective question. After about a year, I'll do the same thing with Ashley when it's her turn.
Sure, go ahead.
So, what is there a significant, without sharing any HIPAA violation,
right.
any HIPAA information, is there anything that was any session that was really significant to you in in your profession, in your experiences?
All of them, right? I can't say that, but yes. And I can't narrow it down to just one, but what I can say is that I've learned the most from counseling and sharing session time with someone who is very different from me. And I mean that in cultural sense, right? Age, everything. And I think it has a lot to do with being able to learn from somebody that's different from you.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, it's that cultural humility.
Right. 100%. And I think it just teaches you how to just sit and listen even more. Right? Because when we think we know somebody, right? When they look just like us, they come from the same place as us, it's easy just to kind of check out, right?
Right.
I already know your struggles, I already know what you're going through. But then when you sit with someone where you're like, I have actually no clue.
Right.
It really retrains you to say, well, let's sit down for a second. Let's listen. Let's learn.
Right.
And let's be taught for a second.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I know when I was making assignments, months previously, I thought about that. I thought about, it's not about ageism or anything.
Right.
I thought about your, where you're at in life, your age. You're fairly young.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? You're younger than my daughter. I just found that out today.
Yes.
Yeah. We were trying to figure out who was the youngest in the office, and we found out it was you.
It's me.
Yeah, unless Ashley has you beat, but I don't
No,
think
she
so.
does. She doesn't actually.
Yeah.
She looks like she might, but she doesn't.
Yeah, right. And so, I said, man, can I give this client to Heidi? I would think about that.
Yeah.
And I'm still thinking about that because I have some I would like to hand over to you. I very much would like to. As you know, and I hear Jake in my head bone going, Dan, just do it, just hand them over.
Well, and I think it's an interesting, I don't want to call it a struggle, but it's an interesting, conundrum or quandary, right? It's it's typically with older people, right?
Yeah.
It seems like a very large age gap, right? Mm-hmm. And it can look like that on the surface, but there's a lot more understanding that is right up underneath there.
What do you mean by that? Talk to me about that.
I think, sure, I was not around when gas was 80 cents, right? I'm like, I was not, okay? I'm going to be honest.
Yeah. Were you going to talk to someone where it might have been less there? So.
Right. I was not there at that time, right?
Yeah.
But there's still certain things that I can empathize with, right? So there's this idea that we have to understand everything, right? Mm-hmm. we don't have to understand anything, right?
Yeah.
But I can empathize.
Yes.
I can sit with you in the moment that you're in.
Right. I think that's important for all of us, whether it is someone from a different country,
Sure.
a different culture, whether it's someone from a different generation.
Yep.
It's just being able to sit with them
Yes.
and to hear their story with no judgment, accepting them for who they are.
Right.
Even someone who has been perhaps incarcerated,
Yeah.
sitting with them, and that is challenging sometimes. You know, sitting with them with no judgment and just hearing their story and being with them. Because people, a lot, especially veterans, and I'm not sure how many veterans you see, but especially veterans, a lot of our veterans do not have a lot of friends, or at least the ones I've talked to. I think you've gotten some younger veterans, but I don't even know if they, what your experience is with that. But yeah.
Well, I think it speaks a lot to like one of the modalities is person-centered, right? And
Yes.
it talks about this unconditional positive regard
Right.
for others, and I find myself leading with that a lot of times,
Oh,
especially when I have typically it's with PTSD clients, right? And so just because I think it really matters for people to trust you.
Yep.
Especially in this profession,
Yep.
right? They're coming to you with their whole worlds essentially,
Right.
and you really want to build that trust and build that relationship.
Right.
I think a great way to do it is with that positive regard.
Yes, I think Rogers had a significant impact in developing that theory, and that therapy is I think it's very foundation to anything we do.
Sure.
Here at Pathfinder Counseling Group is establish that rapport, and using person-centered therapy and establish that rapport is so important.
Right.
And I think I talked to you all about that several months ago is let's establish the rapport. That's important. Very first thing we need to do. And it's obvious too that in some cases we're limited to the amount of sessions.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. So when you find yourself limited and you really don't have a whole lot of time with a person-centered therapy, what modality do you go to other than the very basic foundation modality?
Right. So typically my biggest two are CBT or solutions focused.
Okay.
And so if there is that time restraint, it's going to be that solution focused. And so that's really just finding those goals and then working towards those goals using things like motivational interviewing and kind of really digging into that.
Right. Yeah. And that's one of the things I really, when you hired on, I was really impressed when we had some of the case consult meetings, and I was really impressed with you, with all of you, really. I think I really, here at Pathfinder, we have some really professional therapists, whether it's you, Ashley, Jake, Crystal, and a few others that are with us and coming in. But I really appreciate the professionality and the ability to articulate the therapies, the therapeutic language, this idea of you have 12 sessions, so you got to use solution focused.
Right, and I definitely don't talk like that on the normal.
No, you don't. No.
In a session, I will not use those kind of words.
No. But in a setting like this, or in our own case consult, it's just really impressive.
Sure.
So I think you really picked up a lot, but I think it goes beyond Liberty and it goes beyond University of North Georgia.
Sure.
I think it goes to you and how you were raised and so forth.
Oh, well, yeah.
I met your mother once, so I probably get some kudos there. I think it was your mother that I met at the other location.
Gosh, yeah, you did meet my mom.
In the hallway there.
You did, yes.
Yeah, I think you brought
my daughter, yeah.
You came and got some mail or something.
Right, she was she was a week old.
Yeah, your daughter,
yeah.
But your mother was there.
She was, yeah.
So it was just, I think I just appreciate you and the professionality that you bring and the humor.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Even though it's Georgia humor,
I don't know what he's got against Georgia.
yeah, well, go blue, Michigan, Big Ten, all the way. Stop this SEC stuff. Are you a sports fan? No.
I can watch him. I can keep up.
Yeah.
But I don't watch him.
Oh, okay. I see. You no sports fan at all?
Well, it's the wrong sport for where we here. I like soccer.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I always get.
Yeah. Well, you got a friend from a friend of mine who always said soccer's the real football. Yeah. They don't stop and huddle. They just keep moving.
That's right.
That's the real football.
They're putting the real work in.
But see, that's my friend. He would say that. I would say that's no. I like NFL football or Big Ten football. Anyway, Heidi, it's so CBT, solution focused.
Yes.
Anything else? What is some of your favorite tools you like to use with clients?
Oh gosh, I like to do a lot. I think for the groundwork, it's really kind of like a building when we do things. And so, I mean, you lay the ground floor, right? So you've got your things like building that therapeutic relationship. Then you've got building those coping skills, right? Being able to regulate and things like that.
Yeah.
And then after you've got that ground laid, that's when you start putting the rebar in. You start, I'm talking about a building, I guess now.
Yes,
but,
you are.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like surprised. Was your dad a builder? Was he a builder?
No, he's a plane mechanic.
He's a what?
An airplane mechanic.
Airplane mechanic.
Yeah.
So, how do you know about rebar?
I don't know. I think it's just I've got a memory like an elephant.
Okay.
So,
Right.
but then after that, that's when I start really using some of my other tools.
Right. Let me get your take on something that I've studied, and I'm still in this process. The Adverse Childhood Experiences survey. What do you think about that?
The ACEs.
The ACEs, right?
I think.
Is it a good tool?
I mean, yeah. I think so. What I was getting at, I think a lot of things happen in our childhood, right?
Yes.
I think who we are when we're young really plays a part into who we are when we are older, right? And I think there's a huge conversation around your inner child.
Right. Oh, you're going to IFS work now.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I think it kind of comes from a little bit is what happens to you as a child, right?
Right. I think all that is very important. ACEs is a good tool. That's just one of the tools, questionnaires we send to. It's actually a questionnaire, not a survey. But it's one of the tools we send our clients, and it's a tool.
Sure.
I think the way you put it is appropriate. It's more of a relationship versus a cause and effect.
Right.
The experiences in childhood, is there a relationship between that and how we act today as an adult?
Sure.
That's the question.
Right, and it's a pretty big question, right? Because it begs the question of cause and effect, right? It's like, I mean, if this happened to you, do you then absolutely, as a matter of fact, end up like this, right? And that's the thing, not always.
Not always. You're right.
And so it's a very interesting.
Yeah. In my study, my work as a PhD student, it's into that field.
Yeah.
It's going in. Is there a correlation between ACEs and life fulfillment?
Yeah.
So I think
It's
all
very
that's
interesting.
Yeah, it is very interesting. So you've joined us at the Journey podcast at Pathfinder Counseling Group, and you joined us today with Heidi Isley, right?
You got it.
Who is a master's level therapist, and we certainly have enjoyed her being part of the Pathfinder Counseling Group. And you can contact us at Pathfinder Counseling Group at 931-444-5630. The address is 101 Hatcher Lane, Suite D in Clarksville, Tennessee. We hope you enjoyed this podcast. Hope you enjoyed the conversation between myself and Ms. Heidi. And Ms. Heidi, we just hope and wish well for your husband, who is not around now at this point, but we hope he returns soon, safely to you.
Thank you.
Okay?
Me too. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. God bless you all. Enjoy the day.